I mean, we're kind of talking about announcements, so maybe we just roll into that with the Game Awards. There are some big ones.
Intergalactic looks freaking awesome. I'm all over that.
It's the new Naughty Dog game.
Yep.
I grew up. I was born in the 70s, so I grew up in the 80s. So I'm not tired of that style yet. Witcher 4 looks awesome. Shadow Labyrinth looks freaking weird. The Pac-Man is a monster game.
Yes.
Yeah.
I gotta keep Pac-Man relevant.
I haven't watched Secret Level, but apparently there's like a Pac-Man episode of Secret Level that has that kind of aesthetic to it. So yeah, if you're not familiar, they're making a edgy Pac-Man Metroidvania. Crazy stuff.
But I think my biggest takeaway from the Game Awards, and there were cool things, right? Like the Fumito Ueda game and then Okami and all of that stuff. But my takeaway is Split Fiction. My takeaway was we're in this awkward area as Switch fans where we're not getting any of these games because they can't run, right? And as the Switch 2 is going to get announced, you will get announcements for a lot of these titles to run on the Switch, right? Like Switch 2, Split Fiction, Okami for sure. Maybe Shadow Labyrinth.
Definitely Shadow. That's probably coming to the regular Switch too.
And hey, if Witcher 3 can run on the Switch, maybe Witcher 4 can run on the Switch.
But should it? We'll see.
We'll see. We don't know.
We kept making we kept making jokes that they're going to reveal the Switch 2 at the very end of the show, which is bad for all the people that showed their trailers before and couldn't show the Switch 2 logo like on them. And they're like, oh man, come on. No, but clearly that didn't happen. There was actually, I think the only Nintendo representation was an accolades trailer for Echoes of Wisdom, which was
not
very
anything
funny.
New, just the reviews it's had.
Yeah, there was Nintendo saying, sorry, Geoff, we would have loved to be there, but we have nothing.
Yeah, true. Nintendo didn't even win the Nintendo award. The Family Game Award this year went to Astrobot, right?
Yep. It went to
deserved.
the Nintendo game that was made by Sony this year.
That is, to be fair, that is the most Nintendo game ever put on a PlayStation console, and even the developers knew it, right? You heard that acceptance speech.
Oh yeah.
I will not say their name, but we all
know it.
I mean, it's a little Mario Sunshine Jet. I'm sure you've seen that before somewhere.
Well, yeah. Now we're talking about the awards themselves, and the winner, obviously, that we're talking about Astrobot won Game of the Year, as well as a few other awards, as we've hinted at there. Were there any other awards given out that y'all agreed with, disagreed with, or were important?
I knew it wasn't going to get Game of the Year because I think I, in my heart, knew that Astrobot was going to get Game of the Year, but I was still very happy to see that Metaphor ReFantazio got as many awards as it did and the recognition that it got.
Yeah. I ping-ponged back and forth between Metaphor and Astrobot as my personal Game of the Year. I love them both dearly, and they're obviously so different. And then Indie came out and is having a good time with that too. That's exactly, it's right up my alley. I thought the awards, generally the picks were good, right? Like it's all gaming publications coming together and voting. And so at IGN, it's all the editors vote for the IGN awards, and then a subset of the editors also vote for the Game Awards. So you might get different winners out of it. It's not guaranteed that what IGN voted for also will win the IGN awards.
Yeah.
But I thought it was pretty good. There are a couple of games that were under the radar. Like, I'm really bummed that nobody noticed World of Goo 2 came out.
Oh.
And it's so charming. It's so fun. I don't know if you guys played it or like it, but
I did. I played the first one. I love the first one.
So they totally botched it. They didn't send it to anybody, talk to anybody. It just kind of slipped out, and it's so clever. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's not like World of Goo 1. It goes into all sorts of different directions that you wouldn't expect, and it's very good, and nobody freaking played it.
Yeah, I remember when it got announced, but I don't remember when I did not even realize it had launched. There you go.
Super bummer.
I think I've got opinions on the Game Awards, and I think that I've become a lot more over the years. Well, okay, let me start by saying this was actually a pretty good show. Like all things considered, I think this is one of the better Game Awards in a while.
That part.
Particularly as December E3, you know what I mean? Like it did what it needed to do as far as we got a new Turok announced. Like, what the fuck? That's great. That's crazy, So it's like, and a new Okami. Like, it's wild, But it's like, I do I mean, something that I like more about what I saw from the IGN Awards actually nominations was there was a lot better spread of like indie and AAA representation throughout the whole thing, because there's some incredible indie games this year. And like, you know, I think I'm just butthurt that UFO 50 didn't win anything.
Yeah.
You know, that's probably one of my favorite games of the last like 10 years. And so but again, it's like there's debut indie and Balatro won both. And it's like, it always feels like there's one indie that gets like all the flowers, you know, and it kind of is representative of the whole awards. So,
I know that used to be World of Goo. But yeah, look, I mean, Geoff has an interesting conundrum, right? Like, first of all, he's got all the games journalists nominating things, and it is very unlikely that out of 60 different publications, a lot of them will pick an indie game for Game of the Year. You know, it could happen in a year where like Journey or something came out, but because there's so many big games across so many different platforms, they kind of crowd out the smaller ones. And then he has the other issue, which is it's modeled after the Oscars, but the attraction at the Oscars is everybody on stage is famous. And the difference with Game Awards is nobody on stage is famous or actually made the games, right? Except for a few. And so the thing that I always feel like is a bummer at the Game Awards is that we rush through these awards for people who did really cool things, like musicians, for example. And like, it's almost like this afterthought. It's like, here are the winners for 5 things, and then trailer, right? But the trailers are the celebrities of the Game Awards. And so
you're right.
Without them, people wouldn't tune in. And when people tune in, they actually do get exposed to all these games and all these developers that they wouldn't have seen. So ultimately, it's all, I thought it worked out well.
Yeah. There was, I think the one other thing I'll bring up was the Game Changer Award, like the kind of a new thing that they did this year. I feel like that's been probably the biggest complaint of the Game Awards, other than the length and it's all trailers and no awards, is that Geoff isn't talking about the layoffs. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I feel like they finally did. It definitely felt, it was a step in the right direction, right? It's not like Geoff can do or say anything to solve the problem in the games industry right now. But I think it was good that they cut out like a 5-minute chunk at least of time to particularly talk about this. They had a montage of different people talking about it. And then they had, a guy who's actually trying to do something about it come up and talk a little bit. I think at the end of the day, I would love to see more action on this and actually see some of the big AAA publishers and developers that are causing a lot of these problems actually put their money where their mouth is. But hopefully this is something that can kind of push that needle a little bit in that direction. But, we're just going to have to see next year if things start finally looking up after this, 2 years of drought that we've really had in the games industry.
Game development is getting so expensive, right? It's very difficult for game publishers to satisfy the needs of the audience as well as the needs of the shareholders that ultimately give them money for their projects.
Yeah.
It was nice to have the Larian CEO give out the Game of the Year award there and talk about
that. Was a great little speech. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Well, the Game Awards happened. We can move on unless there's anything else. There's a lot in there that we skimmed over, but
any favorite outfits from the night?
I only really saw 1 or 2 guys wearing jeans, which is good. I still think they need to have a 0 jeans policy at the Game Awards. I'd really like to see that actually enacted, but I don't know. Troy Baker looked pretty good. It was funny seeing Troy Baker next to
Todd Howard.
Yeah. Seeing Troy Baker next to Todd Howard, the height difference was quite staggering. But yeah, it was a good one.
Pretty funny.